as the war in Ukraine escalates. Western institutions ramp up censorship. All right, guys, hello and welcome to another episode of Thinking Out Loud. As you can see, we are sitting in the brand new studio here. I'm super stoked about it. I was going to make a big party out of the whole thing, but given some of the pressing matters that are happening in the news, I'm going to forego that for now. But I just want to start you guys off with a real thank you for getting us this far. I know we're a super small channel still, only about 2,000 subs and, about a dozen patrons or whatever. But I just want to thank all you guys for the support. Because if you guys weren't watching the videos, if you weren't liking the videos, if you weren't hitting subscribe, sharing, commenting all the time, I mean, there's a few dozen of you guys that are just in every single comment thread, no matter what the video is about. And a special thanks to everybody who has either sent PayPal donations or become a monthly patron, because, I mean, I get that Patreon money and I stash it away until I have a large lump sum, and then I'm able to afford buying things like this and taking the show to the next level as far as production value goes. So I just want to thank you guys very much for that. I'm super excited to be here in the studio. I mean, I feel like a fucking real YouTuber, but we're going to forego all the celebration stuff. I just want to give you guys a brief thank you and jump into this because there's been so much going on in the news recently surrounding Ukraine, sanctions ramping up, combat seems to be ramping up. There's all sorts of misinformation going around, and now, as we're going to talk about in this video, a serious ramping up of censorship. By now, I'm sure you guys have heard about RT being either sanctioned or shut down by the State Department. It was really kind of mysterious. Shows like On Contact being shut down, shows like Redacted Tonight and Lee Camp. I believe Lee Camp's personal podcast, Moment of Clarity, was even purged from Spotify. I'm sure you guys have heard all about this. Like I said, it was really mysterious circumstances. They weren't even really given a heads up. They weren't given any extra information. It just suddenly, hundreds of people were out of a job, and all these great, independent media shows like Redacted Tonight or On Contact and stuff are just purged. All these people without a job. And now it's coming out here. It looks like RT and Redacted Tonight, as well as several other YouTube channels and Twitter accounts, have not only, been forced into unemployment. It looks like they are actually straight up shut down now. So I actually want to pull up the screen mirror here and show you guys this. This was sent to me from one of the comrades. Let's see here. Haven't done this in a while. Let's see if we can get it to work. Okay, yeah, so before Redacted Tonight and RT was, just shut down. They were no longer producing content. Now, I mean, this happened in the European Union, where RT, Sputnik, Radio Sputnik, various different people and platforms were purged, shut down. And now it looks like, in light of new sanctions that came out either last night or today, that is also the case for the U.S. Here, check this out. This channel is not available in your country. Same with RT here. This channel is not available in your country. There were several others, including Twitter users. People were sending me a bunch, but I wanted to try to sit down and get this going as quick as possible for you guys. Right here, ASB News Military. They were doing coverage from both sides. They were showing Ukrainian troops, Russian troops, kind of actually giving a more... And I don't know a whole lot about this channel per se or this group. But they were, just doing coverage of actually what was going on there from both sides. Whoever was sending in footage, they were relaying it to a public audience. I guess if this is a different account or what, that was also shut down. But I had read a tweet somewhere that they had shot up to like 200,000 subscribers very quickly. And then they were suddenly shut down. As you can see here, this tweet is from a suspended account. So this is another wave of, I don't know if you want to call it political purges, but censorship that's been going on that, look, guys, you don't have to be pro-Putin, pro-Russia. Anyone watching this channel, as I am, I'm sure, is anti-war generally. You don't need to be pro-Putin, pro-Russia to understand that this level of censorship during a conflict that has the potential to spill over to be a global conflict is very concerning. Is very, very concerning. I mean, this is some real Alien and Sedition Act type stuff. And of course, you know, both sides do propaganda. I'm not saying stuff that's coming out of RT is completely unbiased. That would be a foolish assumption. But the complete shutting down of dissenting views at a time when the State Department and the military-industrial complex is trying to compel us into a global conflict that could very well spill over into a nuclear war, into a nuclear holocaust, is fucking disturbing. Any way that you cut it. So I wanted to cover some of the stuff. As you can see, I just showed you with the screen mirror there. Russia Today, Redacted Tonight. Various Twitter users have been completely purged from the internet. But there's more than that as well. I got this right here from DuckDuckGo, which I believe is a search engine. This is from their CEO, I believe CEO, Gabriel Weinberg. Like so many others, I am sickened by Russia's invasion of Ukraine in the gigantic humanitarian crisis it continues to create. Hashtag I stand with Ukraine. At DuckDuckGo, we've been rolling out search updates that downrank sites associated with Russian disinformation. In addition to downranking sites associated with disinformation, we also have often placed news modules and information boxes at the top of DuckDuckGo search results where they are seen and clicked the most to highlight quality information for rapidly unfolding topics. Okay, so yeah, we've been rolling out search updates that downrank sites associated with Russian information. So I've been trying to put together some other videos. I have backlog now about some of the stuff that's been going on in Ukraine, with just more context and nuance about why this has happened. Anybody who has looked into this conflict since at least 2014 or even prior to that understands that this isn't just Russia invading because Putin's a madman. Okay, there's been a war going on in Ukraine for 8 years. That's not up for debate. There's been war crimes there. The Ukrainian government and military is completely riddled with neo-fascists and fascists that have pushed conflagration with Russia. They've pushed to join NATO. There was a coup in Ukraine back in 2014, spearheaded in large part by white nationalists and those pushing for the EU. So this has been everyone who's actually studied this topic knows that there's more to this than just Putin bad, Russia bad, and the sort of blind barreling forward narrative that we are hearing out of Western media. And so what we see here is a search engine rating search results. So anything that could potentially have a nuanced opinion about what's going on in Ukraine, why Russia did this, giving you context about the history of the conflict is going to be downranked. And what you're going to get is CNN, MSNBC, all that kind of stuff, which is a trend we've already been seeing with independent YouTubers and such for quite a long time, where they bury independent media, and the first thing that pops up when you type in whatever story, it's CNN, MSNBC, I mean, even Fox News, right? So I did a little more research on this, and again, I had a comrade send me more information. He knows who he is. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody who's always sending content or relevant sources and information my way. It makes my job a lot fucking easier. So apparently there is some censorship legislation in the pre-draft period right now. I want to pull this up for you right here. There's a lot of reading. I'm going to try to do this as quick as possible. Let's see here. Internet search services. In the regulation, the legislator intends to set out a very broad and comprehensive prohibition. Internet search services are provided by operators for the purpose of the regulation. The regulation prohibits both the broadcasting, which is a very broad concept in this regulation, and the fact that operators enable, facilitate, or otherwise contribute to the broadcast. The regulation refers in that regard to including thorough transmission or distribution of any means such as cable, satellite, IPTV, blah, blah, blah. Furthermore, the anti-circumvention clause laid down in the regulation is worked in very broad terms. A broad construction of the prohibition laid down in the regulation is also consistent with its objective, which is in particular to tackle the fact that RT and Sputnik have to date gravely distorted and manipulated facts and have repeatedly and consistently targeted European political parties, especially during election periods, as well as civil society, asylum seekers, Russian ethnic minorities, gender minorities, and the functioning of democratic institutions in the Union and its member states. It is a continuous and concerted propaganda actions targeted at civil society in the Union and neighboring countries, gravely distorting and manipulating facts. Search engines such as Google are designed to index results containing any possible content. They index websites throughout the world. The information is indexed by their web crawlers or robots, that is to say, computer programs used to locate and sweep up the content of web pages methodically and automatically. The activity of search engines plays a decisive role in the overall dissemination of content in that it renders the latter accessible to any internet user, making a search on the basis of the content indication or related terms, including to internet users who otherwise would have not found the web page on which the content is published. This one's regarding social media. I'm going to read a little bit of this here. It follows that foregoing the social media must prevent users from broadcasting any content of RT and Sputnik. That applies both to accounts which appear as belonging to individuals who are likely to be using RT Sputnik and to any other individuals. Moreover, social media accounts that either formally or de facto belong to RT and Sputnik or their affiliates must be suspended because it is prohibited under paragraph 1 and furthermore falls into distribution arrangement. As regards to the posts made by individuals that reproduce the content of RT and Sputnik, those posts shall not be published, and if published, must be deleted. So what we're seeing right there is not only are they getting rid of RT and Sputnik, and we're starting to see this spill over into U.S. media, U.S. social media. If you screen mirror old footage or have it downloaded and share it, if you talk about it, your posts can be deleted or taken down, or your social media account can be suspended. Not good. Not good. How do you determine the line between disinformation and having a differing or dissenting opinion in this context, given all the history of this conflict and all the factors involved? This is straight up State Department bullshit. This is doing any means necessary for the media machine to recapture its monopoly on American thought, on Western thought. You're not allowed to think differently. And to them, you've shown that you can't be trusted with other media outlets. So we're going to give you the corporate ass state mandated media. That's going to give you one narrative with no nuance, with no discussion. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. And then we have a little bit more here. I'm not going to read all this because it gets a little dry and it's a little hard to read on my phone here. But this is in regards to use of content in media reporting on the sanctions, or reporting on the conflict. So as you guys know, I did a short little narrative video regarding Ukraine, and it was taken down almost immediately. I mean, a few hours in, it was getting a huge amount of views and a lot of shares. And they took it down because at the end of the video, I used some footage from The Guardian from back in like 2018, I think it was. And so they plugged it on a copyright infringement clause. Now, I have been flagged for copyright in the past when I've done narrative videos. Remember when I did that short story regarding the Black Lives Matter protests and riots? I got flagged for using copyrighted material. All it did was demonetize it. And it was allowed to stay up and all that. With this, they completely took it down. And I took some time to look into the user and terms of service agreement when it comes to copyright. What I did was well within fair usage standards. Just using that to create a narrative structure, giving more information on the topic, on the conflict. And they still took it down. So I've had it happen to me personally as well. I've never been taken down for copyright, ever. And you guys have seen all the different images and video and sound clips and stuff that I've used. I've never had this happen before, but it did with this. So there's that. So yeah, guys, that's this. A lot of this is copy and paste legislation that they're trying to push forward in the Congress that's from the EU. There's a lot more to this. I I've shown you some of the censorship and stuff going on. I also have a memo. This is unrelated to the Ukraine conflict, but this was a memo sent out to YouTube content creators right here. Regarding election integrity and stopping misinformation when it comes to that. This is obviously in light of the events of January 6th and the claims that people on the right were making that the elections weren't fair. So there's a lot in this that they are going to censor and pull down anything from YouTube that handles these topics. But the two that I want to touch on here are on the bottom. Says here, distribution of hacked materials. Content that contains hacked info, the disclosure of which may interfere with democratic processes. That's Wikileaks, ain't it? The Hillary Clinton emails showing all this mismanagement at the American embassy, all the sort of fucking around that she was doing with the DNC to try to shut down Bernie Sanders, all the conspiracy with that. If you're talking about that kind of stuff, it can get pulled from YouTube now. And I know this is out of context of the Ukraine conflict, but I'm trying to show you, this stuff started with, prior to Trump getting taken down, Alex Jones getting put down, taken down, deplatformed, and then Trump, and, fuck those guys. But in the end, it wasn't about them. I think it was taking figures that are so, you could say universally hated, setting that precedent of taking them down very publicly, because no one's really going to try to dissent against that. They're going to be like, oh yeah, fuck those psychopaths. And that kind of set a precedent that they can do this freewheel publicly, and it kind of manufactures consent to convince people that this is okay to when they do it, people are like, oh, okay. And you can see liberals all over Twitter when they shut down RT. It was like the king had died and they were dancing in the fucking street with champagne. So those sort of things were a manufacture of consent to push this forward. They used the 1/6 riot as another way of manufacturing consent to shut down freedom of speech. And when it comes to right-wingers, theocrats, Nazis, all of us don't want to see those motherfuckers on the airways, on being broadcasted. We don't want to see it. But this, and I'll get into the reading here again, this herein lies the issue with it's a private company terms of service tool of censorship. You saw a lot of liberals and even people that are ostensibly leftist taking that argument. It's not infringing on freedom of speech because it's a private company deplatforming them or shutting them down. Now, when it comes to wanting Nazis and fascists and KKK and all these fucking psychopaths off the airways and off the internet, we all want it. In my view, they don't have a right to speak because their speech is dehumanizing and quite literally wants other groups of human beings dead. I don't believe there's a space for that in freedom of speech. But the problem with using the terms of service argument, is that now you've said that they can do it for fucking anything. You can do it for anything. Any dissenting opinion can be shut down because it's terms of service private company. Right? If we want Nazis and KKK and fucking theocrats off the airways, we need to have clear legal statutes. Clear judicial rulings. You understand? That can't be circumnavigated. It needs to be set in stone. It can't just be at the bequest of a giant corporation. And furthermore, to discredit that argument, we live in a capitalist society. The government is owned by the giant corporations, including big tech, right? I think we can all agree that. That's why the government sucks. We've talked about it 100 times. The big corporations own the government. So, not de jure, but de facto, it is state fucking censorship of the freedom of speech when a giant corporation does it, because they fucking are the government. And I figured that would be clear enough to people, but apparently not. So yeah, guys, all this is going on. They've shut down RT on all the great shows, independent media that was funded through that. People don't seem to realize. I mean, the news segment of RT is clearly Russian slanted a lot of the times. I'm not making an argument against that. But RT also functioned in much the way that IPTV or PBS or NPR used to function before it was gutted and was forced to go to corporations and private individuals for donations or keep broadcasting. It gives grants to individuals. It pays out to individuals to allow them to produce their own media content. And now you can take this with a grain of salt, but you've heard people that would work with RT to do their own independent media, including Jesse Ventura, Lee Camp, Chris Hedges, talk about how RT never fucked with what they wanted to say. It was their own fucking show. They got a grant from the government to pay for the expenses and to pay for their salary, and nobody ever told them you can't say this or that. Now, you could take it with a grain of salt and say, oh, they're just fucking saying that because they're told to say that. Maybe. I mean, I don't fucking know. I don't know these people personally. But giving all their views on things and their historical and dialectical understanding of the issues, I tend to trust them. Right? So there's that. But so all this is happening. They're shutting down Twitter accounts. This is something we've seen in the past. We saw it happen with BLM as well. We saw a lot of it happen in the wake of the 1/6 riots. But guys, this is fucking dangerous any way you cut it. You don't need to be pro-Putin or pro-Russia. And to clarify, I'm not pro-Putin. I'm not pro-Russia. But you need to, I mean, you have to question why, if the U.S. and its allies are so convinced of their moral high ground in this conflict, why we can't hear dissenting opinions and dissenting facts. Why can't we get the historical context of what's going on there? And at a time where you got two huge superpowers and all the smaller but large powers involved in a conflict that they seem to desperately want to ramp up by giving arms to Ukraine and keeping this fight going, despite the fact that Russia has given very clear stipulations about what would create a ceasefire or an armistice, you have to wonder why they're shutting this down. It's fucking sketchy. It's concerning, it's disturbing, and it's only been a few years we've really started to see the ramp up of censorship of the internet, and look how far it's already come. And it's only going to get worse. And for YouTubers like me that have put everything into their shows, into building a new studio, my money, my time that I could have spent with my girlfriend or my kids or doing something, leisureful, it's fucking scary that we can be arbitrarily shut down at any moment. And you cannot have a free and open society without allowing dissenting opinions. And the umbrella term of fake news or disinformation has been weaponized in such a degree that it is a cure-all for anyone that has a dissenting opinion. They can shut you down. All they got to do is put a label. They were spreading disinformation. And half the fucking population in the United States will be like, oh, they shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have done that. It's fucking scary. But yeah, guys, I have one more thing I want to touch on here. So quite clearly, the State Department, the EU, the big tech giants that own our government are pushing censorship. They're shutting people down. They're deplatforming, as I said. And then I got this article right here. Says, Beijing is rewriting the Ukraine narrative. The Chinese government is scrubbing the country's media of sympathetic or accurate coverage of Ukraine and systemically amplifying pro-Putin talking points about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So as if it weren't enough that we're getting this full-bore censorship and shutting down, people's lives being destroyed. I mean, this is real Red Scare shit, man. Like they did to the socialists and communists in the 50s and 60s. They lost their jobs, they lost their livelihoods, they lost their homes. We're seeing that, and if it's not enough, hey, let's get some free China baiting in with this while we're doing it. Let's get some free China baiting in, huh? The fucking level of hypocrisy, and you know what? Maybe China is doing that. Maybe they are purging anything that's maybe pro-Ukraine. Sure. But the fucking hypocrisy of a major news media outlet to pump out that sort of fucking narrative while they're doing it probably 100 times harder right here in the US and in the EU. It's sick. I don't understand how people don't see the sort of society they're living in, man. It's a fucking empire. The biggest one in human history. Trying to manufacture your consent for fucking global war. But, you know, go ahead and put the fucking Ukrainian flag in your thumbnail. I'm sure it's going to help. Insane. But yeah, guys, that's all I have for you. I wanted to keep this one a little bit shorter. I have some more Ukraine conflict related content coming out soon, but those ones take a little more research and a little more patching and stitching together to put them together in a quality way. This video might have been a little bit sloppy. I'm sorry about that, but I was just, really eager to get in front of the new studio and record. It feels fucking great. I think it looks great. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think about the new studio, or if you have any quirks or ideas you think I should do to change it a little bit. But I also just wanted to get this information out to you guys while it's happening, and fingers crossed they don't shut me down. I'm going to try to make the title something that won't get flagged, and maybe take it easy in the description box. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think generally about the Russian-Ukraine conflict, what's been going on there for really the last 10 years. And let me know what you think about the censorship thing. Are you in the same boat as me, where you find it fucking extremely disturbing, and you think that it's really the clamping down of finalized institutions of censorship on the internet? Because that's how I feel. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think. But as always, guys, it's great hanging out with you. Thank you for the continued support. Look at where we've gotten from where we started, when it was just two fucking white dudes sitting down in front of a dining room table. And now we're here, and it feels good, man. So thank you for all the support. As always, I love you guys very much, and I'll speak with you again soon. Bye.